Stein, when I was on site with the PE group and all of their consultants, some of them came from Chile, and Nicholas said to me, he's 65 years old, he's been in the industry all his life. He said, Jeremy, I've never seen an ore body as rich and as exciting as Mina Tucano is for gold. And I thought that was amazing. He's been in the business, 40 years? He's never seen anything this size. A world-class asset, a huge resource, an incredibly low valuation, let's be honest, 36 million pre-money valuation. We're a little bit crazy to be selling it down here at 70 cents with half a warrant at $1, but we want to get the deal done. It's the same terms as a private equity group are taking, so it's good enough for them, it's hopefully good enough for you. Go on to tucanogold.com and you'll click on, there's a link to Edward Baum. Just send him a message, say you saw the video, you'd like to speak to me, I'll give you a shout.
All right, today we're having a discussion with Jeremy Gray, the CEO of Tucano Gold. We'll be covering a lot of topics. First up, we'll be talking about how that private equity deal valued at more than $45 million is going behind the scenes. Second, we'll talk about who that private equity partner is, at least how much we can share today. Third, we'll dive into some financial modeling and share how profitable Tucano will be according to this private equity partner. Very interesting, so we'll dive into that. Also, we'll talk about what's happening behind the scenes at the Brazilian real to USD exchange rate and what effect that has on Tucano. Jeremy, great to have you on the show again. Perhaps we can start off with that private equity deal. How's it going?
Thank you for having us, Stein. It's going really well. We expect to complete this transaction by middle of January. As you said, for nearly 46 million Canadian, all equity, no debt. A Brazilian partner, very strong partner, understands Brazil, understands the potential of the Tucano Gold mine in northern Brazil, the biggest mine in northern Brazil, and just the incredible earnings power of that this mine has in a backdrop of a very strong gold price, but also a very weak real, as you just said.
Definitely very exciting. And for confidentiality purposes, we cannot reference who this private equity partner is just yet. But there's a track record you can talk about, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, there certainly is. I received a call from them 4 months ago saying that they believe that we are the next Ero Copper. Now, they were the largest investor in Ero back in 2016. Of Ero then, that's become a 30x for investors if they were to have bought it back 8 years ago. It's probably the most successful Brazilian mining story, listed story in Canada and Australia in the last 8 years. And they just think that we're going to be the next Ero Copper of gold. And I think they're absolutely right. We have all the infrastructure, the resource, the scale that mirrors a lot of those early days of Ero Copper. That's now a $2.4 billion market cap.
Definitely a huge corporation, massive market cap, and interesting to see that parallel with them investing and now attempting to do the same on a fully diluted basis.
Yeah, it's good. It is. I didn't actually realize that until I was playing football with them, actually. In Brazil, on site, we have our own football pitch. We had Brazilian football. I was the worst player ever to step in on the football pitch in Brazil, but I learnt that playing football with them one evening on site, and it made me really feel excited that we have a strong partner that allows us to really grow the business. As you know, Stein, we've been growing Tucano Gold in slow motion. We've raised 14 million Canadian of equity in the last 14 months and just been really keen to get started, turn on the mill, take advantage of these record gold prices, record low currency, and make significant free cash flow. So very excited to complete this transaction and turn Tucano Gold into a $1 billion+ market cap.
Yes, and that free cash flow is exactly what I would like to talk about next, Jeremy, because there's this very in-depth modeling that this private equity partner from Brazil has been doing on Tucano Gold. We'll flash it on screen very quickly. Cannot dive too deep into it just yet. Hopefully in the new year, once this deal is through, we can do a very deep dive into all the financial modeling for the viewers at home. But we have some summary statistics here. Perhaps you can take us through what profitability Tucano would be according to this private equity partner.
Yeah, absolutely, Stein. And it's important to remember that these are their numbers, not ours. They're the internal forecast they have a team of 5 working on this transaction. They've spent 2 months building what is an 1,000-line model, and you should show the guys, scroll through that model. But they're forecasting more conservative numbers for 25 or 46,000 ounces for a nice, steady, slow restart. But then here you see the big bounce of 182,000 ounces in 2026 and over 200,000 ounces in 2027. That's bigger. Just to put in perspective, that is bigger than G Mining Ventures production profile, which has got a market cap of over 2.4 billion, I believe, right now. And as you scroll down, you can see the profitability and of that at various different gold prices. So at 2,400, which is what they're using as their house forecast, in 2026 we'll make 221 million EBITDA. And as you see, the leverage as the price potentially goes higher. But what's very important about this model is that it's based on a Brazilian real of 5.5 to the dollar, to the US dollar. As you rightly pointed out, the real's over 6 now, and we think it's probably likely to head to 7 in 2025. So the margin expansion you'll see on those numbers that you're looking at today will be quite dramatic. And I would guess at 2,600, it will make well over 350 million US EBITDA in 2026.
Thanks for that comprehensive overview there, Jeremy. And behind the scenes, we did some napkin math, which I would love to take the viewers along with. So if you look at this conservative $2,400 gold price and a $221 million EBITDA in 2026, that would be about $300 million Canadian in EBITDA for that year. If you would then put that into a share price, a EBITDA per share, using your fully diluted share count after this transaction of 182 million shares, that gets you to $1.64 in EBITDA in 2026, which is of course a huge figure. Now, an investor can of course slap on an EBITDA ratio, like a price to earnings ratio, whatever seems fair. If you would use, for example, 3, that would get you to a $5 share price already. So that is really the profitability we're talking about here, Jeremy.
We've priced this really cheaply at 35 million pre-money valuation for a business that will cost 500 million to build today. And I think sometimes when you price these things so cheaply, people go, there must be something wrong. Why are you doing it that? And it's because we're private. When you're private, you have to recognize that it takes longer and it's harder to raise money, and you have to price it accordingly. And that's why we have such a wonderful shareholder base of over 600 shareholders, sophisticated, mum and dad shareholders who've supported us on this journey. And it's made it all possible to actually raise the money to buy the business and to give an opportunity for shareholders to make substantial returns as we roll out production in Q1 of next year. Stein, when I was on site with the PE group and all of their consultants, some of them came from Chile, and Nicholas said to me, he's 65 years old, he's been in the industry all his life. He said, Jeremy, I've never seen an ore body as rich and as exciting as Mina Tucano is for gold. And I thought that was amazing. He's been in the business, 40 years? He's never seen anything this size. The scale of Tucano Gold, the potential resource of 10 million plus ounces, it's just incredible. And that he said that in front of the whole team that was on site with us that day, and I was really proud. I thought, yeah, you're absolutely right. Here's a business that's never had the money put in it that deserves, that's never had the attention it deserves, probably because it's a little bit remote. It's right up in the north of Brazil. Most Brazilians don't even know where Amapá is. But now it's going to flourish, and it will be, I think, the richest gold resource in northern Brazil, possibly in Brazil, top 3 in South America.
And I think that's such a good point, Jeremy. All those numbers we've talked about do not include any of the exploration upside of low-hanging fruit of Ducat we've talked about in the past. That's all just the current mine plan in place. And like you said, it's such a rich system, and this mine could run for decades.
It could run for the next 50 years. And I'm not exaggerating. It's such a big system. It runs for 14 kilometers. And the guys were just blown away with duckhead grades. Who's got 31 meters at 490 grams? That's a top 5 hole in the industry. And we got many, many more of those coming. It's the best, most exciting new gold mine in the industry.
Great. And we will talk about how potential viewer at home could participate in Tucano in just a second. I want to take you to the Brazilian real. We've been talking about this behind the scenes as well. The central bank in Brazil has spent tens of billions of dollars the last week, I should say, to prop up the price of the real. What is going on there, Jeremy?
Stein, I think this is all part of the new golden era for gold miners in countries like Brazil, where you have a very strong US dollar gold price, but a very weak real. And we internally forecast the real to go to 7. We're not using that in our numbers, but at 7, you're going to be over 20,000 reals an ounce. Now, to put it in perspective, the last time Great Panther was operating in Mina Tucano was in September of 22. The price was only 8,800. Today, it's over 16,400, so it's basically nearly doubled in the last 2 years. And we think it might be a 3x by the time you see production really ramping up at the back end of 2025. So perfect scenario, weak currency, a strong gold price. And yes, When these currencies weaken, they tend to just keep going for some time before you start to see a correction. And as you said, the Central Bank of Brazil, the government have stepped in and dramatically trying to stem the flow, trying to stop the weakness, but it's not working.
You could say that again, and it's probably not working also because of the government spending we see there. If you express the Brazilian government spending as a percentage of GDP, so the deficit as a percentage of GDP, we're looking at minus 9% for 2023, and we're probably looking at an even larger figure than that for 2024. So enormous deficit spending. And if you then look at the long-term chart for the Brazilian real plotted against the US dollar, sorry, this is just a one-year chart, long-term chart looks very similar to that. It is definitely a depreciation trend, and we should expect that to continue.
Yeah, absolutely, Stein. And I think, in regards to our partner, our PE partner, I think everyone in Brazil gets the memo. Buy a business in Brazil that sells its product in US dollars and pays all of its costs in local currency, which gets weaker by the day. That is massive margin expansion. And that is why we think gold mining in Brazil is probably the most profitable business, the best business to be in Brazil right now. I can't think of anything that's better than that. And, why we're really confident and excited to work with our PE partners and grow the business. And there's nothing like a bit of luck and a bit of timing. Some people say that's more than 50% of one's the outcome of a group. But, when you have the tailwinds of a weak currency, a strong gold price, a world-class asset, a huge resource, an incredibly low valuation, let's be honest, at 36 million pre-money valuation, we're a little bit crazy to be selling it down here at 70 cents with half a warrant at $1. But we want to get the deal done. It's the same terms as a private equity group are taking. So it's good enough for them. It's hopefully good enough for you. And we're really excited to then list in the second half of 25 and see $1 billion market cap.
Definitely exciting future ahead there, Jeremy. Perhaps you can explain to us how a viewer at home could participate in Tucano Gold today. You already started referencing it. And roughly, what is the barrier of entry for a viewer at home?
Yeah, absolutely, Stein. Go on to tucanogold.com and you click on, there's a link to Edward Baum, our investor relations man with Max. Just send him a message. Say you saw the video. You'd like to speak to me. I'll give you a shout. We have over 600 sophisticated mum and dad shareholders who've backed us on our 3 companies, and Tucano is by far our biggest. So a minimum threshold is 2,000 Canadian to get involved. And like I said, we because we're private, we like to price these things very cheaply. We bought this asset very cheaply 14 months ago when no one was interested in gold. It's a big world-class facility. So would love to talk to you. Give us your number and I'll give you a shout.
Excellent, Jeremy. Thank you for the update here. Hopefully in January we'll have a chat where this private equity deal went through and we can talk about the restart strategy, geological modeling, that all for the new year. But for now, thanks for the update.
Thank you so much, Stein. Really appreciate all your guys' support. Thank you, Lars.